When I grow up, I wanna love what I do. And then when I grow up, a coach can help me get a clue. Hello, grown-up giggers! Hello! I am so excited because I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm talking to Leah Kalamakis in France right now. Like, she is in the next room. The wonders of the 21st century and the internet and Skype.
Amazing. Hello, everyone.
Amazeballs. Thank you so much for joining us, Leah. I was just so excited when a mutual friend said to me, like, check out Leah's stuff. I think she'd be great for grown-up gigs. And I went, she would be great for grown-up gigs. You're a web designer, you're a web developer, you're the founder of the Freelance to Freedom project. And I just feel like we have so much to talk about. It's going to be exciting.
I'm excited.
Yay! So give us a little bit, Leah, of what you wanted to be when you grew up. It's how I have to start every interview.
Of course. Well, you know, it's a hard one when you think about it because I'm sure it was a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But the thing that stands out to me the most when I was very young was anesthesiologist. And I'm pretty sure that came just from the name. It's in medicine. It's a really cool name that I could say at school and be like, I'm going to be an anesthesiologist. Oh, you don't know what that means? You know, little kid stuff.
Oh my God, the fact that you could even say anesthesiologist, I could barely say it as a 36-year-old woman. I can't even say it as a little kid. That is so funny. So you didn't really know what it was. It was just this really cool word and sounded fun to say.
Yes, definitely. And then, you know, high school came around, all that, and I didn't like science.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to study that hard for that long to get into something.
Amen and hallelujah. So you like discovered your right brain and said, let's go there as opposed to science, math, more left brain sort of stuff.
Yes. But then, throughout high school, I got into fashion a lot. And I knew I wanted to move to New York City, actually. And so I found FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, and I made it my thing that I wanted to go there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I did discover that I'm right and left-brained. And so I needed something in between. So I wanted to be surrounded by fashion, but I went the business route. So it was just merchandising, the business side, not the creative side of fashion.
Interesting. So you went to FIT.
Yeah.
And did that. We're in New York City, coming from Seattle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then when you were there, or after you graduated, take us through a little bit of that timeline.
Yeah. So when I graduated, I always kind of thought I wanted to be in the corporate world, which is strange. But I think it's just brainwashing, thinking that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to climb the ladder, and so that's what I wanted. But at the same time, I wanted to escape a little bit and do some traveling, so I moved to France. And I tried to find a corporate job here, which I eventually did. And I worked, it was an American company in France, and I was just very corporate world. I sat behind a computer, Excel spreadsheets all day long. And it drove me crazy. At first, it was great. I don't think there was really a turning point, but I just started to think, I'm not happy. I don't want to climb this ladder.
Yeah, I've been there. A lot of like, how is this my life? How did I wind up here? How is this what I'm spending my days doing? Right.
Yeah. And then a big one, I think I read somewhere, someone said, do you want to look at your boss? Or, you know, the people above you, do you want to be them? If you want to be them and have their job, then you should be there. And I just thought that. I said, no, that's the last thing I want. So what am I working towards if I don't want to be my boss?
It's a scary, scary, scary time when you really look yourself in the mirror and you're able to ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
So how did that affect you? What was that like?
It was very, not scary necessarily, but just very day in and day out became harder. The Monday morning, that every night knowing that you have to go do it the next day, that it wears you down very quickly. so I went on like this rampage of trying to figure out what I could do, what my skills were, and a lot of internet research, basically,
Yeah.
and discovered that I could probably start my own business.
Ah.
So, unrelated, I started learning web design. I set up some sites for family, and I was really enjoying it, so I learned more. I took some training online, and I just fell in love with it. So,
how did you know, like, how did you connect those dots? It sounds like web design was not in your wheelhouse at the time at all.
No. I think it was a matter of doing it for fun at the same time of trying to find a different career. So I looked at everything as an experiment, and I did lots of other stuff.
It's my favorite.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of, I'm going to just build a site, see how I like it. And the more I learned, the more I was really enjoying it. And I found that it was the perfect balance also between my left and right brain, because I did the development side, the coding, and then the creative side of actually making things pretty.
Oh my God.
So it kind of fell, I wouldn't say fell, this is like a 2-year process. So it didn't fall on my lap.
You went after it. You went after it. You were it sounds like you were very proactive to what could this thing be. Once you knew it was about being an entrepreneur, it sounds like was going to be probably the most important piece for you. Then it's, what's my business? Yes. Then it's, what am I kind of interested in learning? And I loved hearing you say that you viewed it as an experiment. I feel like that's the detective hat that everyone needs to put on when they're figuring out, what they want to be when they grow up, no matter how old they are.
Definitely.
To kind of see how things land. So thank you for saying that. I didn't even, prompt you for that or bribe you to say that.
No.
And to talk too, that it was a 2-year process. So during those 2 years, were you still in this job that you hated?
Well, I was. I'd say the first year was really exploration, not really thinking, but just kind of figuring out my next steps. It wasn't the really deep, depressing, going to corporate job every day area. The last year was when I really started actively saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do to get out of my corporate job. And then back to the experiments thing is when you look at it that way, it's okay if this doesn't work out. I happen to love it, and I feel like it's going to be a thing for a long time. But I think we change so many careers, and it's normal and okay. And if you think of it as an experiment, even if what I used to get out of my corporate job, if I go into something else, I can always do that later. There's nothing stopping you from changing again. So
it sounds like you didn't put yourself, this is such a Renaissance soul trap, I feel like, that when you're someone with a different interests and passions, the last thing we want to do is to tell ourselves, like, well, I'm going to pick something to transition to, and then that's the thing that I'm going to do for the next 40 years that I'm working. Like, that is just panic attack mode.
Yeah.
But being able to say, no, this is what I love doing now. This is what excites me now. And it could always transition to something else. Do something
and it can transition back also.
Right, absolutely.
I think a fear of leaving is you think, I'm never going to be able to maybe you won't be able to get your actual job back, but you think, I can't go back. It looks bad on my resume, blah, blah, blah. But you can go in any direction anytime you want.
Absolutely. I think the question boils down to, like, are you living your life for the resume, or are you living your life for yourself and your own wants and needs? And I'm hoping really that the landscape of work and more traditional jobs is changing. And I would think that if we all know how to kind of spin things, that taking a year off to start your own business or learn a new skill won't be seen as something negative by an HR department or a particular company. That if you're able to talk about it in a positive way, this is what I learned, and this is why I did it, and now this is why I want to come back, that would be nothing but hopefully positive, relaying as a positive piece.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm hoping. Okay, so you like fell in love with web design. You realized like, oh my gosh, that's my right brain. I could bring my left brain in with the development site. So now you're like a one-stop web shop in a way.
Yeah.
So people could come to you for all parts of the process, which I assume is really appealing for people too. It's not like they need to find a designer and then a developer and get all crazy. So when were you able to leave, like to do that full time?
So this was actually last June. So I'm just 7 months?
Yay!
7 months into it. Yeah, full time. I was doing it on the side. I had clients, but I couldn't take on too much, of course. And part of what I did was I told my boss. I took advantage of a really good situation. My boss, my direct boss, was going on maternity leave, and so I kind of negotiated that fact and said I'll stay during her maternity leave to my bigger boss. If you help me leave, if you're basically nice to me when I want to leave. So on the financial side, that helped a bit. I knew in advance how much I was going to be getting when I left, and then I could prepare in a specific amount of time to save up to have the backup.
So essentially, you gave like 6 months notice or something. Is that right?
Yeah, a little more.
Oh my gosh! I can imagine how scary that is. Were you worried that she was going to turn around and be like, "No, leave now," or if you're not planning on being here long term, then it's time for you to think about leaving, something like that?
Yeah, no. Luckily, I had a good relationship with my bosses. Of course, maybe you could be a little scared. I think it's a little different here in France. They have a different. It's not as strong of a. They can't fire you that easily, basically. So they can't just fire you right away because you say, I'm thinking about leaving. So it was basically it was really hard. I think it was really nice setting a date. And even if you don't tell your bosses when you're leaving, I think setting a date in your head and then making sure you're working to get to that date.
Yes.
So making sure I had more clients, I had some savings in case it didn't work out right away. And it was kind of nice, but it was very long. It's.
I had my date. I figured out my date about 3 months in advance, and even though I didn't go to my boss at that point, I waited to give my normal 2 weeks. I had a countdown in my Google Calendar that every day, at the start of every day, it was like, 87 days, 72 days, 56 days. And I have to tell you, that was one of the most like motivating things that I did, was able to wake up and look at the date and go, oh my gosh, I have 47 days left. Okay, got it. Gotta move on. So that's great that you bring that up.
I even cut it down into days. So I'd say this is my 14th to last Wednesday.
I love it. It is really motivating. It's motivating to like, pump up the gas, for your side hustle, you're going to transition into, but also like just build excitement that you're going to get out of this situation. And so how did you know, I mean, it was great that you saw the maternity leave in front of you and knew like, this is something I could use to my advantage, but was there anything else that made you know that you were ready to give your notice?
Probably not.
Okay.
I think you just need to jump. But yes, having regular clients that I had met through referrals or someone that's not a family member or, direct friends, having random people, that made me realize, yes, this is potentially profitable. I can get clients in this direction.
Oh, it's such a nice feeling, right? I had the same thing when I knew I was leaving my executive assistant job, that it was like, I want to be sure that people out in the world know that I exist. Like, I want to feel Like there are just some people that I'm known somehow.
Yeah.
And so when you get these consultation calls or clients or whatever coming in that aren't, your relatives or directly from your friends, and they start becoming more plentiful, it's a really exciting feeling.
Exactly.
Could you talk a little bit about how you handled the side hustle, as it likes to be called? Like, I think a lot of my clients and people who are looking to make this transition struggle with having the energy when they go home at the end of the day after working a job to actually work on their passion project. Was there any sort of tips, tricks, structures, anything that you remember from that time that helped you build your foundation and keep moving forward?
Yeah, I think it is hard. It's very hard.
Yeah.
Definitely. I just worked. It's just hustle, and I think that came from wanting it bad enough. So I think you need to find that want, that desire enough, and then the hustle comes. Actually dealing with day to day, I did a lot of mental work, I think, where I told myself it was okay. I only have 2 hours a day that I could potentially work on a client project. So I'm only going to take one client.
Right.
Instead of I have to take everything that comes because I'm leaving soon. So really just accepting that you don't have enough time, being kind to yourself in that way, and just doing what you can with what you have.
Yay! Oh my gosh, I feel like we could put all that on a t-shirt. Put all of it on a t-shirt. And I think it's you pointing out, like, sometimes you only have time to take one client at a time. I know for me, I would get very worried once I didn't have enough time for everyone that wanted to work with me, when I told people like I was on a wait list essentially, and they'd have to wait a month or two to start working with me. I was so scared that all the people would go away. But instead, it created kind of the opposite effect of people being like, oh, I need to wait. You must be good. I'm like, yes. Yes, I am good. Yes,
very
that's
good.
true. I'm very good. So, hopefully that's something that should be a good problem to have.
Definitely.
And maybe also a good insight. I know for me, I knew I was ready to leave because it finally got to the point where it's like, there are more people that want to work with me now than I have time to work with. But if I left, I would have enough clients that I would bring in enough money to at least have me, pay the bills and not have to dip into my savings and so on and so forth.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us about how and when the Freelance to Freedom project came to be.
Yeah, so that started in October. Since I had been experiencing for a year of really digging into something new, a new skill, a new career, and I had the year before of the transition period, like what you deal with a lot of your clients, I found myself wanting to share it. So when people would ask me questions or in groups, I loved helping on specific questions related to anything in that.
Right.
So I knew I needed to find another way to kind of get that out. And I wanted to try and help people do it even faster than I did. So I created the Freelance to Freedom project, and the concept really is you have skills that are more valuable than you think, and that you can be paid for. You don't need it to go through an employer to get to you first. And discovering those skills.
Preach it.
So it's just a way for me to write, to help people. I've created a kind of community. I want it to be more of a community where people get to know each other, and just give them the resources to do what I did faster.
Amen and hallelujah. So that's interesting. So that happened. You built that after you left the corporate job.
Yes.
Did it? And it seemed it's so great. I love hearing you say that it essentially just came from your own passion and need and strengths and skill set to share this journey and help others. But I could imagine too that it probably, as a good side effect, ended up being a good marketing tool in a way also to feed into your web design and development.
Yeah, so I didn't think of it. I thought there would be
Mm-hmm.
a lot of web designers maybe that would follow me. I didn't expect those people to need websites,
Mm-hmm.
especially the ones that can build them themselves. And usually people just starting out, they try and DIY it, so they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't necessarily hire me. But what I have found a lot of overlap between the two, and that was surprising to me. But it has a really good of side effect of just
Mm-hmm.
kind of being more seen, being
Oh.
having more opportunities to connect with people online. So yeah.
Yay. I love it because it's such an authentic, good-hearted marketing tool. And so I think a lot of the time when we're, as I can imagine, a lot of my grown-up gig viewers we want to have these businesses that are really putting out good change into the world and positivity and wholeheartedness and we're coming from a really good place. And when we think of like sales or marketing ourselves, it feels really gross and, it's sometimes hard to really, get started on Twitter and meet people when it's just coming from a place of like, I want people to know about my stuff, know
Sales.
about my web design, know about my web development, blah, 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 blah. So I love hearing about your project because it just seems like, again, it's this real natural, authentic way that you're able to help people, but yet it's obviously part of your whole platform and what you're
Mhm.
building as the foundation of your own entrepreneurial empire.
Yes.
I like to call it. So in terms of wearing all these hats, so like you have your web designer hat, you have your web developer hat, you have your entrepreneur hat, you have the freelance to freedom project hat, and I know you probably have like copywriting and bookkeeping and all the things
Oh.
that we do as entrepreneurs. Any any takeaway from like juggling all those balls in the air that you could share in terms of like how you handle that without your head exploding?
Yes, lots of head exploding. Well, I think, first of all, when you're multi-passionate or you have
Mhm.
multiple projects, um, I think you need to dig deep and see, first of all, the difference between money-making business and marketing business or the wholehearted thing side of
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And you do need to put the money pretty strongly, the money-making
Mhm.
side, because it has to work. You got to
Mhm.
eat.
Uh-huh.
So I always, I have my minimum for that I make sure that that's the focus so that I keep
Mhm.
my business financially stable.
Mhm.
Um, and then the rest of my time, I consider it my side project time.
Mm.
So I kind of separate them in my head and I allow myself, when I'm really busy with web design work,
Mhm.
I'm okay that I'm not keeping up as much with freelance to freedom.
Ah, smart.
So yeah, so I guess it's just mental more
Uh-huh.
so.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of tips in day to day,
Mhm.
but I'm not the best at
But
that.
I think even just that one big takeaway, right? And we're obviously not, I don't consider myself a productivity guru either. I mean, I'm able to get my work done.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm hearing from that is, you take kind of the slow weeks or months that you have as a business, and I think every business has it, and every business owner should expect it. And that's a really good kind of takeaway that when you have those slower months, that's when you could shift to more of your passion project stuff or more of the soft marketing sort of
Mhm.
pieces. And so,
Definitely.
paying attention to when those times are, that could be something to plan in advance. Or you're just looking around going, oh, okay, oh, I only have, one or two web design clients, and usually I have five. So now, like, let's take this time to kind of have a break and
Yeah.
re-energize and go back into the passion project.
Yeah. And
That's
then on a
amazing.
more direct route is finding the things that you can batch work. So like blog
Mm.
posts and newsletter. So if I have a slow day, I don't have any client work, I don't just think of the one blog post for Freelance to Freedom for that
Mm-hmm.
week. I'll, do 5 of them. And so just really taking as much advantage of that time for the side stuff, batch work.
I can imagine too. Is that what you did when you were doing your side hustle? Because even hearing you say like, "Oh, I only had 2 hours a day," to work on my stuff. I think that that's a lot more time than the average Jane would think that they would have or would be able to devote to that.
Yeah. I think it depends. I don't have kids. I don't have family near me, unfortunately. So I might have more time than the average. I'm lucky for that. But you've got to do with what you have.
Right.
That's all.
Right. It's prioritizing and saying no to, can imagine I kind of experienced that also. It was like telling my friends, no, I can't go to happy hour 3 times a week. I can maybe only go once a week, and I have to go home after work the rest of the time and work on my business. I have to kind of prioritize. So what's next for you, lovely lady? Anything percolating or anything you're working on?
I'm working on some courses for Freelance to Freedom. So I have a series on the blog right now. I'm talking about behind the scenes. I like to go behind the scenes in everything that I do if I can and show people how I'm doing it, how I'm learning it, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a behind the scenes up there right now. I'm creating a course.
Yay.
And I just want to go into more detail on some specific struggles that I know people are having. So that's what's next.
That's exciting. I can't wait to refer so many people to you. And I just feel it's so important to be so transparent about that stuff. So it's exciting to know that you're leading that charge, because sometimes, things look so pretty and rosy and full of sunshine and unicorns. And sometimes we really need that piece of, I launched this thing and only 3 people signed up, and here's what I'm doing to fix it, and here's what happened, and I think that that's important information to share. So it's really exciting to hear that. You wouldn't mind talking about a little bit around the money piece? Not you don't have to give any specifics that you aren't comfortable giving, but I think that a lot of the times we see these online business people, myself included, you don't really know, how do they do they have a trust fund? Do they have a sugar daddy? Are they a trophy wife? Are they even making money from things? So is there anything that you could talk about to I don't know, you either not coming from that place and where it would be interesting too if you have a sense as to how much of your income is coming from the different things that you do, then that would be great to hear about if you don't mind talking about it.
So first of all, no sugar daddy.
Wouldn't that be nice?
My man is a jazz musician, and not a lot of people like jazz anymore, unfortunately. It's not as popular as it once was, so financially it's not, it's not a sugar daddy. I love him, but the thing for me, it's a little different here in France. So incomes are lower. We have our healthcare taken care of. Very good healthcare for pretty much free. So that makes a big difference, I think, in starting. In the beginning, basically, it's going up. So that's great. My income is going up. The first 3 months were just kind of random because I didn't know how many clients I could take, and I was just getting started. 3 months of escaping corporate. But here I have doubled my salary from corporate.
What? So that's in the last 7 months?
Yes. So French salaries also, because expenses are so low here, French salaries are not as high as the U.S. So what I'm making is equivalent to a normal job in the U.S. Nothing crazy and nothing.
Oh my God! But
whatever. But for me, being able to compare that is huge.
Chills. It's chills, and it's not any less than, because your cost of living is lower. But that's so fantastic to know you were able to build that and do that for yourself, and not have to be in the environment that doesn't work for you, and you call your own shots and get to work on what you want and grow and wear the different hats, and it's so exciting and inspiring.
It is. But I'm really accepting that I'll have months that go down, especially in web design. Clients take different amount of time. It's not always the same. when I get paid and all that stuff. So it's nothing steady. It's up and down, but I've accepted that, and there's too many good benefits to not it's not a downside.
You know, I think that just goes to like being smart about your money and knowing there are going to be those slow periods. And so, you know, if you make, $5,000 one month, to not like go and spend that $5,000 like you're going to make $5,000 every month. Yeah. It's to, you know, keep some of that closer to the vest, to know when you have a $2,000 month or something that it's able to kind of even out. I see that too in my business all the time. I like to look at kind of like the year-long income as opposed to necessarily like the monthly income, you know, or quarterly income as opposed to like weekly income, you know, but you know, you're always able to kind of make it up, and there'll be peaks and valleys. So
exactly. And I have some friends that pay themselves the same amount every 2 weeks, no matter what happens. So I think I want to try that out. I think it's a good, because then I hope that big it's going to savings at the end.
Yeah, I hope that that's going to be a blog post or something in your future. I've never tried that. I just kind of give myself, after I allot a certain amount of what I'm making, like 10%, you know, 20% goes in my like taxes savings account that I could pay out every quarter, and 10% goes into like my retirement account, and then I pay off my expenses, and then hopefully there's something left. Usually there is. So that's exciting. If you do that, keep us posted. Let us know how it works. Be exciting. Thank you again so much for being here. This was just the biggest pleasure getting to know more about you and hear about your success. And everyone, go visit Leah at leahkalamakis.com and freelancetofreedomproject.com. And today, Career Camp opens. So if you're interested in an online program to help you figure out what you want to be when you grow up, then just follow the links. Otherwise, you could just go to whenIgrowupcoach.com/QUG for more grown-up gigs goodness, or /career camp for career camp info. Thanks so much for being here. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
That was amazing.